A group of North Koreans seeking to reunify the Korean peninsula storms the White House, holding the U.S. president hostage in a bunker. Mike Banning, an ex-Secret Service agent, tries to rescue him. But what happened next will shock you. Let's start our movie. The movie begins at the President of the United States residence at night. President Benjamin Asher is training boxing with his lead bodyguard, Mike Banning. Mike is the head of the presidential detail and is very close to the president and his family. Soon after, another security officer named Dave Forbes arrives. He reminds the president that there is an upcoming fundraising event that he must attend shortly. President Asher and his family begin to prepare. His wife's name is Margaret, and his son's name is Connor Asher. They head out with the full presidential convoy. President Asher is in a car with his wife, while Mike rides with the president's son, Connor. The weather is severe due to snow, and the travel conditions are far from ideal. Moments later, a tragic accident occurs. The president's car skids on the icy bridge and becomes stuck. The president is uninjured, but his wife is critically wounded and trapped. President Asher pleads with the agents to rescue his wife first, but due to the situation, Mike is forced to save only the president. The car eventually plunges off the bridge with Margaret still inside, resulting in her tragic death. 18 months later, Mike is seen living a more isolated life. Despite having moved on, the tragic incident still haunts him. He chats with his former superior, Jacobs, at a local cafe, and later meets up with old friends who are still working on the presidential detail. It turns out Mike is no longer on the president's protection team, having been reassigned to the Treasury Department, located not far from the White House. In the next scene, at the White House in Washington, D.C., President Asher is hosting a diplomatic meeting with the South Korean Prime Minister, Mr. Lee. Accompanying Mr. Lee are his chief bodyguard, Mr. Park, and other staff members. They begin their talks with the president and his cabinet, focusing on North Korea's repeated unauthorized border intrusions. While they discuss mutual responses, an unidentified aircraft enters U.S. airspace, violating the no-fly zone. Two American fighter jets are dispatched to intercept, but the intruding aircraft fires advanced weapons and destroys both jets. Upon learning this, the Secret Service rushes President Asher and his guests into the secure bunker under the White House. Outside, the Secret Service prepares for further attacks. Suddenly, the foreign aircraft flies directly over Washington, D.C., opening fire on civilians near the White House. Mike, observing this from outside, realizes something is terribly wrong and rushes toward the White House. He sees the enemy aircraft targeting security forces and civilians alike, killing many in the process. Eventually, a military jet manages to shoot down the hostile plane, which crashes into the Washington Monument, causing it to collapse and crush bystanders. Mike is further shocked by an explosion. Terrorists detonate a city bus near the White House gates. Then, a group of armed insurgents appears and begins a suicide assault at the front gates, trying to storm the White House. Mike engages them, trying to fend off the attack. However, the attackers launch grenades and fire upon the lawn, eliminating numerous guards. They breach the gates and overwhelm the remaining Secret Service agents. Meanwhile, in the bunker, President Asher attempts to contact the Pentagon while awaiting updates. Suddenly, Mr. Park and his team attack the U.S. officials. Park turns his weapon on President Asher, revealing he is the mastermind behind the siege. Shockingly, Dave Forbes, head of the presidential detail, is also exposed as a traitor and Park's accomplice. Their plan had been carefully orchestrated. Back above ground, the remaining guards put up a fight but are vastly outnumbered and quickly eliminated. Within 13 minutes, the terrorists seize full control of the White House. Despite support from military and police units arriving around the compound, the terrorists hold the president and other top officials hostage. They contact the Pentagon, where Park executes the South Korean Prime Minister in front of live surveillance feeds. He demands that the U.S. withdraw its naval fleet from South Korea and evacuate all forces. Unbeknownst to the terrorists, Mike Banning has infiltrated the White House. He finds all the guards dead and the building in ruins. Mike begins formulating a plan and makes his way to the CCTV control room, shutting down all surveillance. In the bunker, Park orders his men to locate President Asher's son, Connor, who is believed to still be hiding somewhere in the White House. Mike, meanwhile, plans to evacuate the president and other officials. At the Pentagon, U.S. Speaker of the House Alan Trumbull is named acting president. Mike contacts them, revealing he is the only operative left alive in the White House. Though skeptical at first, Jacobs convinces Alan to trust Mike. He may be their only chance. They brief Mike on the situation inside the bunker, and Park's demands. Park is trying to obtain the Cerberus codes, classified launch codes controlling the U.S. nuclear arsenal. These codes are split into 3 parts known only to the President and 2 senior officials. President Asher refuses to cooperate. However, when the Secretary of Defense is about to be executed, he gives up his portion of the code. 1/3 of the Cerberus code is now compromised. The Pentagon informs Mike that the terrorists may use Connor to manipulate the president into revealing the final code. Mike quickly moves to locate Connor before they do. Park, meanwhile, spots Mike on one of the few active surveillance feeds. He sends Forbes to locate and eliminate him. But Mike, always a step ahead, neutralizes several enemies, using his former training to regain control of key White House points. Eventually, he finds Connor, hiding behind the walls. Mike protects him and contacts the Pentagon, coordinating his extraction. The president's son is successfully evacuated, bringing some relief to officials. Later, Park tortures presidential aide Ruth to force the second Cerberus code from her. Under duress, and with the president's reluctant approval, she gives it up. Only one code remains, President Asher's. Meanwhile, Forbes finally locates Mike. At first, Mike believes Forbes is still loyal. But when Forbes mentions the terrorist mastermind by name, Mike realizes the betrayal. A brutal fight ensues, ending with Mike killing Forbes and confirming his involvement. Frustrated by the slow progress, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs sends 5 Apache helicopters to intervene. But Park's men are prepared, shooting down all 5, injuring Mike in the process. Furious, Park executes another cabinet member and demands a helicopter for their escape. The Pentagon agrees but outfits everyone in the bunker with matching headgear to prevent snipers from identifying the president. Once airborne, the chopper explodes. Everyone assumes the president is dead. However, Park and the real president are still in the bunker. Park finally forces the president to reveal the last code and activate Cerberus, initiating the nuclear detonation sequence. The terrorists blast open the back wall of the bunker, taking the president and several others with them. Mike, having had enough, goes on the offensive, eliminating the remaining terrorists one by one. He finally confronts Park and kills him by driving a knife into his head. Mike then rushes to disable the Cerberus system using instructions from the Pentagon. He succeeds just in time, preventing a nuclear catastrophe. Mike rescues the president and escorts him out of the White House, saving the nation and the world from disaster. And that's the end of the movie. Okay guys, if you like our channel, help us by subscribing and turning on the notification bell. Like, comment, and share so you don't miss our next video, and help our channel grow even more.
Heroes, every one of them, to their families. They granted us the greatest gift,